Thank you very much for your answers. Your Excellencies, during the last 10 years, already adopted many strategies on domestic violence prevention as a strategy, adopted special programs, curriculums, new law in 2022 and revised versions in 2023, decrees, many things done, special trainings for the judges. So many documents adopted after the pandemic situation, which are showing importance of how you're fighting against the stereotypes and domestic violence and political will. At the same time, we need to go on the implementation level, which are not so soft, especially when we go on this making assessment of the fighting with the stereotypes. Stereotypes in the schools, stereotypes at home, stereotypes in the press, in the media, for example. For example, in media, you have not limitations of the stereotypes and legislations, unfortunately. But some preference problems which coming from the patriarchal stereotypes. At the same time, women continues as unpaid roles as their care responsibilities. And during COVID-19 situation, there was some advertising programs which are showing that women must stay home. It's reality and making the homework, not equally with men, but especially for women. Gender stereotypes strongly influencing occupational choices of workplaces at the same time. Of course, there are so many women in education, in health, there are so many women in scientific research, but we have non-traditional sides. I'm not going to the statistic data. Now just I want to go on and discuss questions on the gender stereotypes prevention, which are very important, and sometimes what do you plan to do, especially fighting, continuing? Because you see the results, what will be the next points for the implementation. Another point is about the statistics in your country, which are included, covered by the UNFPA and other international agencies. I don't want to go to the numbers, including here, because you know these numbers better than I am, including, and you work especially. I'm going directly to the questions. When does the state party criminalize violence against women, especially marital rape? We say about this. We say about the legislation implementation and continuing in the site. When the state party prevent violence in digital spaces, especially against the girls and women, sometimes they blackmail directly through the social networks and different instruments, because we see the new kinds of the online cyber bullying, cyber violences. How many cases? For example, in your criminal code, you have not special criminal case for the gender cyberbullying questions, cyber violences, unfortunately. But how many cases directly you include in your common prevention policy? Another point, it's about system data on the implementation of new law. What kind of cases, how many cases, for example, 2024 you can include, 2025 you can cover. I know that not all data prepared for 2025, but comparing with the implementation of law for 2024, what you can promote for us, especially for me interesting, economic and psychological and criminal cases. I know that you have very good experience on the sexual violence prevention policy and you're collecting data, but what about economic violence, forms of violence, and at the same time digital violence and psychological violence? At the same time, problem of allocation of geographic coverage of the shelters. We have the mountain plains, we have the different places where are not so. The mainly shelters working in the big cities, created and supported by the United Nations and different international agencies. What do you plan to do, especially in this point, and fighting especially on the stigma of economic consequences, what's happening in your country? One more question, it's about protection orders implementation. Please provide number of criminal and administrative cases on gender-based violence and protection orders. These are questions at this moment, and thank you very much for all your answers. Thanks a lot.